beautiful day, world. Peace and love, peace and blessings. This message is for the mayors, city council members, the governors that are governors of everyone, community leaders of all types that care for everyone, cares for everyone's safety, well-being, and progression, not only in a certain state, not only in a certain country, but across the world. Right now, I'm gonna get into some information briefly before I go on to actual what we should do in this day and age right now. Silence is complicit. If somebody does something wrong to you and I see it, I hear it, I know of it, and I sit in silence, I am actively against you and I'm not helping you. And if I'm not helping you, technically I am against you. There's either this one, there's no middle. There's no middle. It's life, death. There's no half life and no half death. So what I plan on doing right now is taking you on a quick tour down memory lane and tell you about the basis of the policing in the South. That's the South, Southern United States. And it basically started during slavery, and it was a way how to control the African American slaves. There were things called the Slave Patrol, or groups called the Slave Patrol. Their duties were to chase down slaves. They also beat the slaves in the process, just to put them back in their place. The slave patrols were also terrorists. They terrorized African Americans to keep them from revolting or uprising. They provided a form of treatment outside of the law, which they could get away with. And it came with physical and psychological violence. So this is where the basis of policing comes from in the South. Sounds very, very familiar and fitting in our present day. Don't organize. Don't uprise. Don't revolt. Don't meet to discuss these issues. You have to have a curfew. You get punished in certain ways. You're told to get into your place. Put you back in your place. Don't leave your inner city to go to the suburbs. Stay in your inner city. Stay in your place. This all goes with policing. We think it's something new. It's not. Think about profiling. There's a history. This history is now embedded into policing. Now let's jump to the present day. Present day, what do we see? We see the same thing going on. May look a little different, but all of those things just previously talked about are embedded into the foundation of what we call policing, especially in the South, which is now broad all over. What happened after a few wars in this country? They turned that type of policing into actual sheriff and police. But what do we get? We get those same individuals, that same culture that moves into those jobs and do the same thing. The culture just shifted. The faces are not under the hoods anymore. They've shifted. Now, let's just imagine, let's hypothetically imagine if we had other organizations within law enforcement. If we had not the KKK, which are embedded, not Nazis, which are embedded, but if we had the Black Panthers, the Black Panther Party, if we had any gang affiliation, now there's or ring the alert bell, because it can now happen to you. So here we are. We find ourselves after a series of killings, after years of killings, after, you hear somebody, a young man by the name of Colin Kaepernick in the National Football League, try to forewarn everyone this was happening on a national stage, but everybody turned their back on him and attacked him for the process. Veteran. It was the idea of a military veteran. But back to the topic. We now find ourselves revisiting all of these. We have people from the Police Benevolent Association in New York saying the media and other people are trying to make police look like thugs and villains. Well, if the shoe fits a thug, that's a thug. If the shoe fits a villain, that's a villain. If the shoe fits an honorable cop or police, if it's an honorable police, or should I say law enforcement officer. If the shoe fits an honorable serviceman or woman, it's an honorable serviceman or woman. If the shoe fits an honorable civilian that may happen to have beautiful brown skin, the shoe fits. So don't label me a thug and don't label me a villain because I have beautiful brown skin. Let's turn the tides right now. Who's killing who? Who's videoing who? Who's being seen to? I didn't take an oath to protect and serve, yet I do protect and I serve. I didn't take an oath to get a paycheck to do that. That's how I live. Now that the tables are turned slightly, because they're great cops. Know how I know? Because my mother was one. My mother was one. So I don't want to hear anybody say, well, he's against police officers. If you say I'm against police, nah. Plenty of friends, plenty of family, plenty of associates that are officers, that are in law enforcement. Nah. But what I want to happen is, let's bring up a discussion of when you see wrong, you should stop wrong. Everybody tell us all the time, if we see something, say something and do something. Well, how can you wear a badge, take an oath, and you see it, you turn a blind eye? You hear him say it, nah, you're deaf. Therefore, you don't do it. You don't do a thing. We're done crying for we need help. We are done begging for we need to stop the killing of innocent people. Maybe if we say it that way, if you stop killing innocent people, you'll hear it. But I say stop killing innocent brown-skinned people. We got a slew. Again, we'll go right back to this this guy from the New York State Police Benevolent Association saying we're not them. You're calling us thugs and villains. Well, if you're a thug, you're a thug. If you're a villain, you're a villain. If you're a good guy, you're a good guy. You're a bad guy, you're a bad guy. The sky is blue. It's not yellow. Those are simple facts. So, like I said in previous videos and in previous statements, there are good people in places. There are bad people in places. We had some guys say about the KKK and Nazis, they're good people. Nah. Find me one good Klansman and I'll sell you a bridge to the moon. It's just a fact. So now woven into the fabric of policing comes the notion of give me my badge, give me my weapon, and now I am superior to everyone. Actually, we as citizens pay for law enforcement. I think some people have forgotten that as well. So if you fund them, you have some say-so about what goes on. So here are a few things that I am expressing to our city leaders, our congressmen and women, the senators, the local individuals, mayors, again, the governors that really give a damn and are not puppets, the governors that really care about people, the elected officials that really care about people. Here are a few things to think about. We have to have law enforcement that obeys the law at all times. That means if one law enforcement officer sees another law enforcement officer while on duty committing a crime, a heinous act, whatever you want to call it, he has the duty, he has the obligation to arrest that officer. A crime is a crime. Doesn't matter what you wear. Doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. A crime is a crime. That's what we want now. A crime is a crime. An active police officer can arrest another active police officer because a crime is a crime. There's no way, shape, or form around that. In this country talks about holding the military up so high. I value you, but I'm not going to hold you higher than anyone else. Because once you get out of that, your value is no higher or no lower. But one thing I will say, since we love value in the military so much, how about this? If a law enforcement officer, a LEO, law enforcement officer, police, cop, whatever terminology you want to use, is fired, they receive a dishonorable discharge. So the same as you do for our beautiful military, right? Same as you do for our beautiful military. Let's do the same thing. That will then add in accountability. Because once you get a dishonorable discharge, you lose all those benefits that we actually pay for as citizens. A dishonorable discharge, that will make you think, not once, not twice, but it'll put you on a different plane when you get in your cruiser, or when you get on the bike, or when you get ready to walk the beat. You're not going to be so willy-nilly to commit a crime against someone else. So we need that, a dishonorable discharge for anyone that is fired that's a law enforcement officer or carries a gun and a badge, just like the military. And on the dishonorable discharge note, not one LEO, not one law enforcement officer will be able to move from one county to the next county, one state to the next state, 5, 6, 7 states over, and then get back on our streets and terrorize the communities. That's what we need. You don't get fired and then you go somewhere else and get a job, pick that job back up like you never got fired. If you did a crime, last I checked in the United States, they ask you, have you ever committed a crime on applications, job applications? Have you been a convicted felon or somewhere in that light? So if a law enforcement officer can get away with a felony, can get away with any kind of crime, what's the point of having law enforcement or laws in the first place? You won't let a prisoner come straight out of prison and become a law enforcement officer, would you? Why? Because you'll call him a criminal. A person that commits a crime is a criminal, regardless of how you look at it, regardless of what their skin look like, regardless of what status in the world they have. Usually it's the most powerful. They tend to try to commit the most crimes because they think they can get away with it. Just food for thought. If there is an officer under any type of investigation, put on administrative leave, whether it's paid or unpaid, whatever that is, if they know that an investigation is coming, we need to have as rule of law, whatever you need to implement, that if you go under investigation or you caught wind that you're going to have an internal investigation, an external investigation for something that you have done, you are not able to resign and reap your full benefits. No. That's like me not going to court. And just because I don't go to court, I'm a free man. No. See, this is where we have to understand how this system works for those that should never be protected. Because again, if you commit a crime, you all gave us the rhyme, you should do the time. If you commit a crime, you should do the time. The honorable thing to do is to let the investigation take place and let's see what the outcome is. So, if you attempt to resign prior to an investigation into yourself as a law enforcement officer, you need to receive a dishonorable discharge. This is where rules need to apply to our law enforcement officers. Again, this is not a color issue. This is a job issue. This is a performance issue. This is a community safety issue. It's a community safety issue, especially when you look like me. This is a pandemic. We die at the hands of people we're supposed to trust often. We get stopped. Something goes completely wrong because I have a legal firearm in my vehicle. Or I am reaching for my wallet that I told you was in my back pocket, and I'm reaching for my wallet, but I get bullet holes in me. You suspect that I did something X, Y, and Z. Well, I suspect that you did it. You better get your facts straight. You bust up into homes. You start shooting. Wrong home, wrong place. Death occurs. You can detain somebody when they walk out in broad daylight going to their car. Why would you have certain procedures that you know can cause harm? If I'm in a stand your ground state, bust up in my door, we're gonna have an altercation. And it probably won't end well. I don't think the philosophies of today have even been thought about. They're just put out there. And guess what? That harms the community in every which way. It definitely harms people with beautiful brown skin. So let's recap real quick, so nobody can say they missed something. So for all you mayors, city councilmen, elected officials everywhere, all the way up to the governors that really give a damn about the people, which we don't have in the state of Florida, I want to say this much again. This is what I want to hear from you. This is where we start the real talk. This is where we start thinking outside of the box, because this thing has been, yes, systemic. It's been systemic. Look at policing in the South and how it started. It's systemic. You profile. Well, I can just stop right there. If you profile, you're not doing anybody a justice. So once you profile, you got in the minds of everybody else to profile, you make our communities unsafe. Okay? Step by step. 1, a police can actively arrest another police officer. A law enforcement officer can actively arrest another law enforcement officer once he or she sees another one of their officers committing a crime, because they're not an officer anymore, they're a criminal. Okay? They're a criminal. Treat a criminal like a criminal. Treat a thug like a thug. Treat a villain like a villain. If you decide to do something wrong, there's no, I thoughts. No. I run a red light, I'm gonna get a ticket. Just as simple as that. Okay? And if I do a heinous crime, I'm going to prison. So, If a law enforcement officer commits a heinous crime, they're treated no different. Accountability is what we're seeking. Accountability. 2, we enact dishonorable discharge in law enforcement. This will make everybody sit up straighter. Make sure their head is focused. It's not nonchalantly, am I going to pull out my weapon? It's not no nonchalantly, I'm going to target someone because of something that's systemic. And when you do so, and you happen to get fired, you receive a dishonorable discharge. The dishonorable discharge goes a long way into controlling how officers do their job. It's called accountability. It's called being honest. It's called being positive. It's called being upstanding. Not a criminal. Not a turn the cheek while I rough this person up and I take something from them and I threaten their life. Okay? So we also need to have where once you're fired, you're not going to skip counties. That's why the dishonorable discharge is so important. You're not going to skip from my county and go 5 counties over to another state and resume the same works. This is what happened with Tamir Rice. Okay? Look at the officer that shot Tamir Rice. Well, all we got to do is look at the record of the officer that just killed George Floyd. They have these records, but they don't want to show us. They work for us, but they don't want to show us. And lastly, if you are under investigation or to be under investigation or know of a forthcoming investigation, if you try to resign, it is considered an automatic termination and therefore you will be dishonorably discharged. We're not able to skip out on court. Well, some people don't abide by subpoenas. They want to be above the law. But that's not how we work in the real world. So if we're going to honor you, you have to honor us, the community that you chose to protect and serve. So elected officials, local, statewide, outside of the state, doesn't matter where you are, I welcome the conversation. I love to have this conversation because one thing that's needed is dialogue. People have been pushed to the edge now. Dialogue is needed. Change is needed. We're not worried about what people are saying about defunding, or there needs to be a restructure. There needs to be a deep look into how things have been and how they've progressively gotten worse. So this dialogue is needed. To say something will be defunded, it gets attention, doesn't it? Some things need to be defunded. Some things need to be reallocated. There should be less force and more of the peaceful approach. Less deadly and more safety. Just telling you what I know. So, city councilmen and women, mayors, local, in the state of Florida, out of the state of Florida, Houston. Love what the mayor of Houston said the other day. I love what the mayor of Houston said the other day. He gets it. A lot of other people get it, but there's a pocket that don't get it. So dialogue is needed. I'm here to continue the dialogue. I'm here to listen to you. Definitely want you to listen to me and us as we speak. I'm speaking on a son of a law enforcement officer, a son of a military veteran. So I do understand. But you're also talking to someone that has gotten illegally stopped and searched and detained before. So, I do understand, because I live this 24/7. There's no way around it. I live it 24/7. So I welcome the conversation. I welcome the dialogue. And everybody have a peaceful day. Do your best to make it in this interesting world that we're living in. But a change is coming. You all are creating a change. We all are creating a change. Use your voice. Use it wisely. Be very calculated. And let's move together. So everybody, that's my perspective on the perspective. Peace and love.